sketch. What's up everybody, I'm Adam and you're watching Model Aviator. This week we're going to be reviewing the RadioLink D460 flying wing. Now when RadioLink contacted us to review this airplane, they were going to send us the Ready to Fly, and we put a bit of a hold on that and went a different direction. We asked for the plug and play because we just wanted to review something that nobody else is reviewing, and the other real factor is the Ready to Fly transmitter. The Ready to Fly version comes with a T8S transmitter. That is RadioLink's smallest transmitter. It looks like an Xbox controller and it's a bit smaller than that. That's my biggest issue with it. Also, the programming is capable, but you have to use an app to program it, and I'm not a fan of that, but I'm just really not a fan of the size of that transmitter. At this point, I've gotten into the thousands of hours with full-size transmitters like this one. I just like the feel of these, and I feel like I can fly any airplane better when I've got this much transmitter in my hands. So, RadioLink sent us the plug-and-play D460, a R6DS 10-channel receiver, and the AT10 Mark II or version 2 transmitter. I think this is their top-of-the-line Air transmitter, so we appreciate them sending us all that to review for you. We normally start a review with the model assembly, but there isn't much to this one. It comes in a convenient carrying case like a lot of ultra micro sized airplanes, and the extent of the assembly is to attach the vertical, and since it isn't a working rudder, it's just a vertical fin. It's got magnets. Now when I first saw that, I thought, man, I don't know if that's going to hold. It holds. The D460 has a 19-inch wingspan. It's 17 inches long. Our example weighs 6.5 ounces with the recommended pack Ready to Fly. It has an SZ Speed 600 kV brushless motor, a Fly Color 15 amp brushless ESC, 4.3 gram servos, and is intended for use with 2S 800 milliamp packs. The D460 is an ultra-micro-sized plane, and given that the Ready-to-Fly weight comes in under the 250-gram limit for remote ID, it is completely remote ID exempt. Now, this airplane is capable of some pretty impressive high alpha, which means it can fly very slow. Flying it in a park is no-brainer. Even at full speed, it's not terribly fast, but in the right hands in high alpha, this thing could be flown in a pretty tight yard and easily at indoor events. It is a 4-channel airplane out of the box. It has elevons, which covers elevator and aileron. You, of course, have variable throttle control, and the 4th channel can be used to go through the 3 flight modes on the included RadioLink BIME-DB flight controller. That flight controller has a stabilized mode, which is a pitch and bank angle limiting self-leveling mode engineered more for novices. It has a gyro mode, which is just standard gyro stabilization to help you in wind and things like that. And it has a manual mode, which is stabilization completely off. Now, worth noting with that BIME-DB flight controller, it is compatible to all of the RadioLink transmitters and receivers, but any other 2.4 radio system that makes small receivers that are S-Bus and PPM compatible. It's made of EPP foam to keep it light and make it durable. It has a reinforced motor mount and a prop saver prop installation. All that is for crash resistance, and we didn't mean to test that, but we did a little bit. It is a convenient top loader with plenty of room for the recommended size packs. This is just a friction fit foam cover. You can pull that off and get to that BIME flight controller and your receiver. Underneath, there are a thumb and finger groove there for hand launching. You have some skids here to protect the servo arms on the normal style servos. A lot of ultramicros have linear servos. This one does not. That's a point of contention for some. You have quick connects on your elevons for control surface centering and adjustment to make that pretty easy. It comes with 2 of the 2S 800 milliamp LiPo packs. You have an extra prop extra prop saver rings, a little bit of bifilament tape, maybe for repairs on the leading edge if you doink it, and you have a little screwdriver for adjusting those quick connects. So when it comes to the features of the transmitter, this AT10, this is primarily a review on the D460, and I am in no way versed enough with this very new to me transmitter system to be able to really tell you one way or another how spectacular it is or it isn't. What I can tell you, the little bit that I do know, it comes in two colors, the orange that we chose and a silver or gray. It has a bright LCD color display that you can change to black and white if you would like. It feels the part. It is a full-size transmitter. It has adjustable gimbals. I was able to raise those up and get them a little longer to my liking. This is what I want to feel when I'm flying an RC airplane, not an Xbox controller. That's just me, so it certainly serves that purpose. It is my understanding with the right module, there's some telemetry capability. It doesn't have what in the Spectrum world we call forward programming. You can't make adjustments to that BIM flight controller through it, but you do have the basic functions that I want to help me set this airplane up and get the most out of it. You have dual rates, you have expo, you have servo travel. Just simple things like that can make a world of difference in whether something this small is a twitchy hot mess or a really smooth flying fun model, and it absolutely delivers on that. It does have multi-model memory, that is worth mentioning, and they sell a number of different types of receivers, so you can use this system to fly airplanes that are not RadioLink airplanes if you so choose. When it comes to setup, both the airplane and the transmitter came with manuals that help slightly. I'll explain. For me, the biggest hurdle setting this airplane up was programming the RadioLink AT10. It's not because there's anything wrong with this transmitter, it's just I'm a Spectrum guy. I know that like the back of my hand. This program's completely different, so it was quite a steep learning curve for me. We're going to link a video in the description, which is a RadioLink video on how to program this specific transmitter for this specific plane. One thing you need to know, she was using a 12-channel receiver in that video. We're using a 10-channel. She'll have you go in the system setup and tell the transmitter how many channels the receiver has. You have to get that right. When I set it to 12, like she said, and I got the airplane bound up, it went haywire and I couldn't get anything to work right. When I changed that to 10 to coincide with the actual receiver that I'm using, everything worked fine. When it comes to installing your receiver, this is a friction fit piece of foam. That's your BIM flight controller, and this is my little R6DS receiver. There's a single wire comes off that flight controller. You plug it into the S bus on the receiver, and there's a tiny little microscopic button on the side that puts it into bind mode once you have it plugged up. The video we're going to link covers how to get the transmitter into bind mode and bind from the transmitter end. And then I just lay this in, hang the antenna out. I put my piece of foam, friction fit foam, right back in place, and then just stick the hats back on and let the antenna hang out. Seems to work just fine. When it comes to a setup page, we're not really going to do that because the setup on this is super simple. We can just tell you what the setup is. When it comes to balance, I have no idea what the balance is. The batteries will go one place. You're going to have to put some Velcro in there. That's the only place the battery will go. With the battery there, plane's in balance, whatever that balance point may be, and it comes with the batteries, so you know they're the right weight. When it comes to control throw, we're at 100% rates, 100% on the servo travel, 45% expo on elevator and aileron, which covers the elevons. And worth noting, with a RadioLink, the expo numbers are like Futaba. So actually putting expo in is negative numbers with this versus positive numbers with a Spectrum, so you just need to know that. And that is pretty much our setup. Pretty simple to get set up once you get the transmitter figured out if you're using something like this. Obviously, if you have an S-Bus compatible transmitter that you're familiar with, you won't have that issue. That's pretty much it. We're going to get to the flying, check out the flying, and then we'll meet you back here. We'll give you our final thoughts on this thing. Enjoy the flying. On this particular afternoon, we had about a constant 4 to 6 mile an hour wind, and that BIM flight controller in the normal gyro mode did a really good job of suppressing the wind. That's a full speed pass, and you've got quite a bit of climb rate when you put the beans to it. It was as aerobatic as you'd expect a bank and yank flying wing to be. It's more than happy to fly inverted, and it actually has a fully symmetrical airflow. It slows down well, and I'm surprised at how easily you can control your line in high alpha without a rudder, although with a crosswind it does give you a little bit of trouble. Figure out which way the wind's going. into the wind, it's super stable in high alpha. Just doesn't deal with crosswind very well, which makes sense, doesn't have a rudder. Bear in mind, when I catch this thing, I'm cutting the power right before I grab it. So even if the prop hits my arm a little bit, it's not under power, and it's on a prop saver, so it's not a big deal. Not bad. We're going to try the self-leveling mode. Right now I'm in normal gyro mode. So there are no limits. So I can loop it. I can roll it. Now I'm going to put it in self-leveling mode. And that's hands off. This is full left, full right, and this is full up elevator. So it will climb, but it will not allow me to really upset it. This is full up and full left. And when I let it go, it just maintains level flight. So I can basically cut the power and not touch it, and it basically just holds it level and lands itself. Right here I'm trying to do an inverted high alpha catch, and I'm using the rudder for all I'm worth, and then there isn't one. So that's what happened. I left the mark. Obviously didn't mean to test just how tough it was, but we did. So vertical comes off with magnets, that's back on. Just put my battery back in place. Put the receiver back in place. Tuck my wires away. And you saw, I mean, that was a pretty, it was not a soft impact. Yeah. Goes right there. Right back on. Motor mount still looks good. Let's see if it still flies after that smack. Throttle cut works a little different on this thing. That was sketch, but it flies just fine, and yeah, doesn't really seem to be any marks on it, so pretty tough little airplane. I had a good time flying this airplane. When RadioLink sent us their A560 to review a while back, that's their 3D profile foamy. That's very heavy for what it is, and it wasn't as good of an experience for me, having a lot of experience with 3D profile foamies, as my experience with this. And I have a lot of experience with the foam flying wings. This one is very light and consequently very lightly loaded. Really a joy to fly, really a good flying airplane. You heard my flying impressions during the flying. Very impressed with the slow flight performance of this, and the fact that given the layout, the diamond-shaped layout and the negative sweep, as far as your elevons are concerned in high alpha, that really enables you to control your line in high alpha with the nose really far up. And that's not something that you can do with bank and yank airplanes that don't have a rudder typically. So very impressed that you can do that with this one. It's also very efficient. We got between 7 and 9 minutes of flight time with mixed throttle, having a good time, horsing around with this airplane. And that is a very respectable flight time for an electric. 7 to 9 minutes is a lot. That's getting into gasser airplane territory flight time. Now, RadioLink says you get 30 minutes out of this airplane. That is a possibility. They say up to 30 minutes, but you'd have to be at the lowest possible throttle setting to maintain flight and not doing very much to do that. So while that's a possibility, I don't think it's practical. 7 to 9 minutes is what you can expect. When it comes to skill level, RadioLink says beginner to expert, and I agree with that. I agree that in the right mode, with the right setup, a beginner could absolutely have some success with this airplane, learn a bit about flying RC. When it comes to acceptable for a beginner and trainer, those are two different things. We've said many times on this channel in many reviews that in our opinion, the best trainers have landing gear, full 3-axis control, high wing. You know what I'm talking about. Those airplanes can teach you more about all the aspects of flying RC than this one can, but they're not wrong when they say that a beginner can fly it. That is absolutely true. When it comes to the price point, that is really the only slight point of contention that I have with this airplane. Both of these are about $160. $160 for this transmitter, $160 for this plug-and-play D460. When it comes to that price on the transmitter, I will say that this is a must-have if you're going to fly a lot of RadioLink airplanes. And if you're into things like the flight test foamies, if you like to build stuff like that, if you are not into some of the more popular bind-and-fly airplanes, this would be a really practical, inexpensive, capable radio system for you to invest in. Now, obviously, if the bind and fly stuff is your thing, you're going to want to invest in the protocol that works with those if that's what you typically buy. But if you like to fly other things, if you like to fly RadioLink airplanes and you're going to check out everything that they have coming out, great little radio system and a really good price point for something like that. When it comes to the airplane, yes, it does come with 2 batteries, and that certainly accounts for some of the cost. It does have that BIME flight controller with 3 flight modes, but that is not earth-shattering. It's neat, but there are a lot of airplanes today that's fairly commonplace as a feature goes. It's still, at the very heart of it, is essentially a 3-channel throttle, aileron, and elevator elevons. It's a bank and yank flying wing. It's a very capable, very good one, very durable, but I do think that $160 for a bank and yank 3-channel 2-axis control flying wing is a little bit steep. That said, a lot of people spend more than they think an airplane necessarily should sell for because they just want it. And this is one of those airplanes that if you want it, obviously it's going to be worth every penny to you. I will leave you with one thing about RadioLink that I'm very impressed with. When we did the A560 review, that is not what I would call a necessarily flattering review. I was very critical of some things with that airplane. I still am, to be honest. Very, very pleased with this. And I was a bit surprised, quite honestly, that they contacted us after that review and offered to send us this. And willing to even send us, their best transmitter. That says a lot about how receptive to criticisms, and particularly constructive criticisms, that they are. That tells me that they want to make their products better. I have told them that I think the ready-to-fly versions of this, maybe not the top of the line, but they need to come with a full-size transmitter. I think that's better all the way around, something you can program, make changes to the setup right at your fingertips. I mean, let's face it, with this, all I did was add Expo. Made a world of difference, and I could do it right here, didn't have to mess with an app. I think people should be able to do that with their ready-to-flies. So they are receptive to the advice, they're receptive to the criticisms, and I have a lot of respect for them for that. So, that said, if you'd like to add one of these to your hanger, we'll put some links in the description where you can go to Amazon and do just that. That's it for us. Take care of yourselves. Happy flying. We'll see you next week with something cool with wings.